And I think Little Richard, the guy is huge. This guy, I can use it as a tent in the garden. Especially wear it on stage. I mean, he must have had like really little legs. They were the voices that rewrote the musical history of the 20th century. People who stood under blazing lights and made entire halls hold their breath with just a single inhale, a single sustained note, a single subtle movement of the body. Audiences believed they were stage miracles. But behind that glamour, behind the flawless posters and the mesmerizing eyes, were secrets even they once wanted to hide. Some had eyes so light-sensitive that entire studios had to change their lighting systems. Some had lungs so large they distorted microphones. Some carried unusual bone structures, mouths, lips, or neck muscles that produced tones that felt almost non-human. These physical anomalies did not destroy their careers. On the contrary, they defined their legends. They created voices no one could imitate, tones no one could reproduce, images that could never be recreated a second time. This is the story of the strange gifts of fate, the unusual pieces that built the 10 immortal names of music from 1950, 1975. And now it's time to open the door that the stage has tried to hide for half a century. Elvis Presley, the secret that made the world believe he had magic eyes. Elvis Presley was a man to whom light was always strangely loyal. Whether on stage or in front of a 35 mm, he always appeared as if someone had draped a silvery glow over him. Black hair, white suit, guitar, under the spotlight, and those deep blue eyes that made people believe that by looking into them, they could understand the soul of America. But what few knew was this: those eyes were not naturally perfect. They were not cinematic eyes by Hollywood standards. They were unusual in the literal physiological sense. Elvis was born with a form of congenital ptosis, a slightly drooping left eyelid, barely noticeable until he became famous enough for every tiny detail to be scrutinized. As a child, the droop made him look perpetually sad, faintly dreamy, like a kid carrying too many thoughts for his age. And then fate twisted that oddity into a weapon. As Elvis grew, the slight droop produced the half-sad, half-sultry gaze the world thought was a deliberate style. But it wasn't a style. It was anatomy. One of Elvis's choreographers once said Elvis didn't need to act. He just had to look. His eyelids did the rest. One eye opened wider, deeper, the other slightly lowered, hazier, creating the impression of a man who had just woken from a long night, carrying secrets in his gaze. This symmetry made Elvis's eyes shift depending on angle, lighting, and emotion. And that was only half the story. The other half, the part that convinced both fans and technicians that Elvis was not entirely normal, was the way his eye color changed under light. In real life, Elvis's eyes were blue-gray. But on stage, especially in Vegas, shows yellow spotlights reflected off his eyes, making them look sometimes ocean blue, sometimes silver gray, sometimes pale green, as if his eye held a layer of magic. In the 60s and 70s, Audiences didn't understand light, refraction through the cornea and tear film. They only knew one thing. Elvis's eyes changed color with every song. In a 1968 TV special, the host accidentally said exactly what fans were thinking. "Elvis, your eyes, they're changing color." Elvis just smiled. But the truth was simple. During sad songs, softer light emphasized the droop of his left eyelid, while brightening his right, creating the illusion of two different eye colors. During rock and roll numbers, strong overhead lights lifted the left lid more, making both eyes suddenly symmetrical, bright, and so electric that many thought he wore special lenses. No, Elvis never wore contacts. The magic was real and abnormal. Hollywood cinematographers in the 50s often complained that it was difficult to capture a consistent eye color on him. In high-speed footage, his eyes looked silver at times, emerald at others, sometimes smoky gray. The border between technical error and legend blurred completely. Many fans swore that when Elvis looked down at the crowd, his gaze pierced straight through them. Others said looking into Elvis's eyes felt like looking at someone standing between blinding light and deep shadow. Scientifically, it was simple ptosis plus light refraction equals the magic eyes of Elvis Presley. But legends don't need science. Legends need a moment, a look, a pair of eyes both sorrowful and sharp, a beam of light shifting color as he turned his head. And with that, Elvis wasn't just the king, he was the man with the strangest, most arresting eyes. In American musical history, eyes that light never refused. And if Elvis made the world believe light could change a man's eye color, the next story shows how light could reveal injuries inflicted from the very moment a legend was born. Legend. Frank Sinatra, the ear crushed at birth and the eyes that couldn't stand the light. Frank Sinatra made people think he was born to stand in the spotlight. Stage lights, studio. Lights, the dim blue lights of bars, where he sang ballads that shook America's heart. But the truth was ironic. Nothing in Sinatra's body was built to withstand bright light. He wasn't a child born to shine. He was a child who almost didn't survive because he was stuck during birth. In 1915, Sinatra's mother went through a difficult delivery. The doctor used forceps metal birth clamps to pull the baby out. The force was so strong that Sinatra's left ear was pinched, folded, and deeply scraped, leaving a concave scar running from the rim of his ear to the back of his head. A nurse recalled the baby being pulled out like a terrible miracle purple. Silent, believed dead. Sinatra lived but with ears that would never be symmetrical. Years later, as he became a film face, his folded, uneven left ear was something MGM desperately tried to hide. But light was the perfect traitor. One wrong angle from right to left, and the ear was exposed, the lower rim curled inward, the upper cartilage bent, as if the wound had never healed. Sinatra knew this better than anyone. He spent hours in front of mirrors, finding the angle slight turn to the right, relaxed shoulders, chin lifted, and the left ear disappeared. That's why he always appeared with the Sinatra angle, a pose Hollywood copied without knowing the reason it existed. But that was only half the secret. The other half, the one